Well, it is now time to turn our attention over to the markets. This week, we were joined on Wednesday afternoon in the studio by Doug Simon from Tredas. Let's begin this conversation talking about wheat. Of course, we had our update from Clay when it comes to the wheat report and what they're seeing down there. USDA also came out with some of their projections on their latest report. I guess, what are you seeing in that market? What's the big picture?
Last Friday, that was the one big surprise from the report. They were down 100 million bushels below the trade expectations. So those numbers, when you look at hard red winter wheat, we're down to about as low as what we were in 2007 and 8, about 140 million bushel carryover. So it definitely tightened up the balance sheet. And wheat went to 1380s back in 2007 and 8, and now we're more in the $9 range, 885 I think today on Wednesday. So we're not anywhere near those high prices that we were in 2007 and 8, but we were there last May, a year ago, when the Ukraine war broke out. So we've had a big washout in the wheat market, but everybody in Nebraska knows that our wheat's really in terrible shape. It's I know people that aren't even going to take out the combines, because the wheat is so poor. It hasn't improved with the rain that we've had lately, so it'll be interesting to see what they see on the Kansas wheat tour. There, I think they were down 10% on the numbers out of Kansas yesterday. I haven't heard anything on Wednesday yet, but when you look at big picture though too on wheat carryover, the stocks are actually in the U.S. about 600 million bushels, and we were about 300 million bushels in 07, 08. So we definitely have more wheat on hand here in the U.S. But when you look at like the world numbers, we actually have more wheat on hand as well. But we always look at it as economists like a stocks to what we use ratio, and those are both kind of similar to what they were in or about 19% back in 2007 and 8 when we had that big run of wheat. So there could be some more excitement in the wheat because as poor as a crop is, it's really tightened up even more. And that was different for USA to come out and be that aggressive cutting wheat, but also cutting abandonment. In Kansas is supposed to be about almost 20% of the wheat's going to be abandoned. Yeah. Maybe about 15% in Nebraska, but it's a bigger deal in Kansas because they're number one producer of wheat. We're number 15. So, yeah.
Well, let's travel outside the U.S. borders. You're talking about kind of the world stage there. Mention something that's happened today. The Ukrainian grain corridor, we talked about that last week, is being extended another 2 months. Is that what you're hearing?
That's what the report came out today, kind of later this morning, that they were going to extend that for 2 months. And really it has to have some consideration from Russia. I think that's in their best interest because they want to continue to try to move wheat. It's not really granting any favors to the Ukrainians, but more their self-interest.
All right, let's talk corn and soybeans for a bit. As you and I have this conversation again on Wednesday afternoon, the charts are not looking pretty. A bit of a sell-off today. Why, or is there a why this time?
Well, I think it's a continuation. We had the reports last Friday, and the numbers that came out, the carryovers that had there, about 2.2 billion bushels on corn, about 335 million bushels on the soybean side. Those are numbers that we saw from commercials. The USD Outlook forum was at those numbers, back in February, maybe a touch higher than what those numbers were, but they were about 10% more each of those than what they were expecting from the traders' expectations. So they cut exports on the corn side of it, which was granted should have been done. But big picture, they also added some more production to Brazil. They didn't cut the production in Argentina on the corn and the beans as much as what some of the traders were thinking. So overall, the report came out, it was very bearish. It went down, corn went down to 572. It went down kind of close to that low that we put in. Now today, we kind of just blew through that because of initially there was another cancellation of export sale to China of about 10 million bushels. And then later in the morning, they announced the Ukraine deal. But a lot of it's just fund selling. The funds are now short about 110,000 contracts of corn and about 120,000 contracts of wheat. It's just when they start getting into a trend, they just push it and they exaggerate it and push it even further.
One of the things you like to hit on when you come on to Market Journal, and I appreciate this, what are we going to do about it? What are the strategies we can do today because of what's happening in the market? So what are some of your thoughts there, I'm sure, particularly when it comes to basis?
Yeah, well, basis is it's firmed up here in the last couple of weeks with the futures, falling off. We're $1 over at Albion markets. Columbus is 95. We're 95 up in northwest Iowa. So if you need to move corn, the basis levels are good. You can always do something, re-own it on the board call. Volatility is pretty cheap right now. You can rebuy, re-own that corn if you need to. But again, like looking at new crop corn, seasonality-wise, we're still probably in a downward seasonal more aggressively on corn than we are on beans. The bean seasonality really kind of gives you opportunities here, April, May, June, kind of July. But I think we still need to look at, continuing to make sales. We've been talking about that all the way since last January about making incremental sales in here, but you still need to kind of keep hitting some increments. A good way to do it if you don't really feel good about selling in here or still to use some options. Today's a better day than any if you're going to do something, buy puts, or if you're going to sell it, probably go out and hedge it. You can buy some calls to go with it, keep some flexibility in the market, especially as hard as they've hit it in the last month here on corn and on beans.
All right, good place to hit pause for now. Doug, we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.